right, make the motion to call this meeting in order. Is there anyone that would, do we need a second? No, okay. All right, and I would ask if Paulina would be able to call the roll.
Yes. Sophie Brown.
Present.
Cameron Allen.
Here.
Myra Ramirez.
Here.
Bruce Williams III.
Present.
Faith Springs.
Here.
And we have excused absences from Curtis Walker, Stephen King, Katie Kimmer, and Allie Morgan. We have no unexcused absences.
Awesome, Paulina. Cameron, do you want to go ahead and ask to do a roll call vote, ask for a motion and a second to do the roll call vote to approve the excused absence request?
Hey, yes, so I'll make the motion to have a roll call vote on approval of the excused absences for today's meeting.
Second.
Sophie Brown.
Aye, I guess.
Myra Ramirez.
Yay.
Cameron Allen.
Aye.
Bruce Williams III.
Aye. Or nay, or yay.
Faith Springs.
Aye.
Paulina Solis, aye. No nays.
All right, thank you, Paulina. Okay, so it looks like we have a few things to cover today, but mostly focusing on the National League of Cities survey we have coming up. But before we do that, has everyone had enough time, or you want to take a few minutes to look over the minutes from last week so we'll be able to all that was said? Does everybody have the minutes in their inbox? Were there any questions about it? I know that we made a demographics committee for the survey, and we finished, the demographics committee finished those questions, so I know we'll be able to look over those today. But if there's no questions, I guess we can do a roll call vote to approve of the minutes.
Okay. Sophie Brown.
Yay.
Myra Ramirez. I'll come back to you, Myra. Cameron Allen.
Yay.
Bruce Williams III.
Yay.
Faith Springs.
Yay.
Paulina Solis, yay. And Myra Ramirez.
Yay.
No nays.
Okay, great. So last month's meeting minutes were approved, and then we can head on to the second item on our agenda, general business. And okay, I guess we can start with any committee reports or, sorry, I didn't mean to mute myself, or any meeting notes. Would anyone like to start with their committee or any updates we've seen? I know Jadavian and Allie are out today, but as far as the Government Affairs Committee, the committee chairs all worked on finding a schedule. And I don't know how you all feel about this, but we sent out, and I can share it with you all as well, but a calendar to check for the third, I think it's the third Monday, I believe, in March, to have a group meeting for the city council meeting, general business, just to appear and to be in that presence and also have any questions. And I think we should work with YAC on that as well, but I'm not sure if they're scheduled for that. Ms. Jamie, do you know what date they're working with for the government affairs? For the city council meeting they're attending?
I do not recall that they have chosen one for the spring. They will meet next Tuesday.
Okay, right, thank you. So if we hear any feedback from them, I guess we could work with that. But right now, I think the third Monday in March would be a date that we're looking at to attend our affairs meeting.
And Cameron, we can certainly share that with the youth council so that they can hopefully adjust to what you all have selected. But what I would recommend today is that CAB go ahead and officially vote to approve that being the meeting that CAB plans to attend. And then of course, if you need to change that later, you can. But I would recommend that you go ahead and vote, and then we'll just present to YAC.
Okay, great, thank you.
Before we do the voting, can I just interject? I know one of the meetings before you mentioned that they were going to plan to be a part of the meeting in March, but there are several different committees for city council. So I just wanted to make sure that we had actually selected the one that would be the one that they would most likely be a part of before we got to that point. Because I think we tried to select a general one. Was that right, Cameron?
Yes,
but there were several different meetings. So is that the one that they're planning to go to? The general one?
YAC does not have a meeting in mind yet. And so that's why we were saying whatever you all decide, we can just present that to them.
Okay.
It's likely that they would go along with it, I think.
Just wanted to kind of mention a side note for maybe us to table at a different time. So I've been getting the alerts from YouTube when the city of Winston-Salem is live. And there is a committee that specifically is dealing with some of the changes that they're doing with housing right now, as far as like some of the zoning that's available and what they're gonna allow, whether they're gonna allow this, I can't remember the type of zoning it is, but it's gonna make a big difference in the housing crisis or the housing deficiency in general that the city of Winston-Salem already has that they're aware of. So apart from this meeting, I think it would also be a good idea for us to maybe, I could try to figure out which committee that was that approves the zoning. We may just, or at least for the housing side, whoever's dealing with that, that might be a good option.
So Faith, are you suggesting that you all would attend the General Government and Housing Committee meeting of the City Council in addition to a regular City Council meeting? Or are you wanting to attend the City Council meeting at which they discuss zoning cases? Because those zoning cases sometimes are tedious, complex. Those meetings last longer than the non-zoning case-oriented City Council meetings. So just wanted you to be aware of that as well.
I'm not too sure about the details of it. I listened through one of it and it was pretty interesting. I may have just called a good one where they were kind of talking about how they were going to change some of the residential area zoning. And it may not necessarily be something for the entire group, but maybe for the individuals that are focused on the housing piece. I just wanted to bring it up because I didn't know that much about it, but it was very interesting. We're talking about housing and they seem to feel that some of the zoning changes that they were going to make were going to impact housing in general. So, it may not be beneficial. Like I said, I'm not an expert on that, but maybe, just for the participants who are focusing on housing, maybe.
I think that's a great observation. It could have been that it was a planning and zoning board meeting. I don't know which meeting you saw. It could be
I have to find out.
One of any of those types of meetings because there is a planning and zoning board, and then there is the Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee of the City Council. Then, of course, there are the full City Council meetings. So I just don't know which one you saw.
I'll have to find out then. Okay.
Yeah, if you find out, that would be awesome information to share with CAB. I do agree with you on that.
Okay.
But thank you for that, Faith. I'm glad you caught it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Faith. I also think that would be a really good opportunity for us to be in tune in both ways, what we're doing with students and with what the city is planning. So I think that's really good. And once you find that, I think we can probably add it to the calendar if anyone wants to go, or just the Government Affairs Committee, or however we want to handle that. But I think it would be really good to have some participants there. But as far as the city council meeting date, it looks like it'll be on Monday, March 15th. Monday, March 15th, and that's the third Monday in March. And does anyone have any concerns about that? I think it's at 7 p.m. Okay, and then when we can also contact other CAB members to see who would be available that day, especially as we get closer. But for right now, does everyone feel comfortable doing a roll call vote? Okay, all right. Paulina, would you mind doing the roll call to approve Monday, March 15th as the meeting we'll go to for City Council?
Yes. Myra Ramirez,
Okay.
Cameron Allen,
Yay.
Faith Springs,
A yay.
Sophie Brown,
Yay.
Bruce Williams III,
Yay.
Paulina Solis, yay, no nays.
Thank you, ladies. And we will let Mayor Joines know that you all will be attending that meeting. So that means you absolutely have to prioritize that meeting on that date at that time. We need you to be present, because if he acknowledges CAB needs to be there. So just make sure you put a big asterisk beside this on your calendars, please.
Right, that sounds awesome. Okay, so now we can move on.
Cameron, can we talk about committees a little bit more and ask Jamie or you to talk about the status of the newsletter?
Yes, exactly. I apologize. I forgot about that, but the newsletter will also be for Bruce too. We were waiting on, let me pull up the calendar. I believe it will be in April, April 13th. That's a Tuesday. And that would be following, it's not a strict date, but I wanted to have the newsletter completed right after we do the trust talks for this semester, just to make sure that that's included in the newsletter, and then also give people enough time to include any of their school projects without interfering with, you know, finals or graduation or anything that they have going on. So that's just tentative based on whatever date we choose for the collegiate trust talks. We also wanted to include like some survey results or just some information about the survey. But I think this semester would be a really good opportunity for people to include what they're doing in their schools as well. Because I think it would be great to highlight. But did anyone have anything to add?
No, I completely agree. Excellent timing for everything else that's going on. Make sure that information is included.
Okay, great. And Bruce, I'll get with you more about that too. I don't know how you feel about that date as well being.
I'm cool with it. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. Don't worry about it. Just get with me when you can.
Okay, sounds great. All right, do we have any more updates from committee chairs on what's going on or what we should expect coming up?
I can speak on behalf of the community projects. I will say that there is a NLC meeting that's coming up. That meeting is scheduled for the 20th of February. So if anybody could jump on that call, it would be great. It is my plan to be on that to just kind of stay abreast of what's going on. Other than that, between the collegiate trust talks and getting that planned, and then the deadlines that we're trying to set. We're getting the survey out. That's the focus that we have.
Cameron, well, Faith, actually, I was looking back on minutes and I did not recall that anybody else had signed up to be on community relations. Is that, like, do you have anybody else that's to help you? Because that is where we will be putting collegiate trust talks usually comes under community relations. So with everybody's help, of course, but.
At this time, I don't have anybody listed. I mean, I know last meeting we talked about, well, I'm not going to put anybody out there, but I know there are people who are heavily involved with the ideas of the Trust Talk, who are heavily working with you guys in the office, and then as well as, since this does cover the NLC a lot, that are heavily, in that department. I would love, maybe one person from each of those dynamics, especially considering I don't have any experience with the collegiate trust talks, but as it stands, I'm holding it down.
And thank you, Faith, for doing that. And hopefully there will be someone perhaps who's gone through the collegiate trust talks before who may want to assist in some way. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot either.
Right.
Thinking about some potential veteran cab members or whatever. So it may be helpful, for you to have someone like that to help you, just to kind of talk to you.
I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, because especially the ones that aren't here, but I know that they put me on the spot. So I am going to be sure to ring their phones.
There you go.
Especially the ones that were super adamant about us having the trust talk. But, just separate from that, I was reviewing the call that we did, or the meeting that we had last month. And then I just want to say, like, anybody who's like super active in like what's going on with the NLC, and you guys have like those bearings, you're not really going to be doing very much more than what you're doing right now. You're already being a part of those meetings. It would just be some great counsel on this side to have you.
And Faith, I'll be more than happy to help any way I can. I wasn't at the Trust Talks last year, but I do remember talking about and planning leading up. So to help, let me know.
Oh, I'm writing you down.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
That's awfully generous. Thank you.
That sounds good. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, so if everyone is complete with their committee chairs and what we have going on, I think we can move on maybe to finalizing our demographic survey questions and just any additional questions that may have came up about that. I don't know if everyone has a copy of those. I can try to share them.
And while those are being shared, Cameron, I just wanted to say that I have sent the questions that you sent to me after the group met and discussed concerns about the survey questions. You remember the email exchange we had? I did share that with Dr. Berner and with Ms. Tiffany. And so just waiting to see if they have any final feedback. And in the meantime, we're still waiting to hear from WSSU to confirm that they do have that IBR handled as well. Haven't heard back. I have sent the email, but I haven't heard back from Mr. Graves yet from WSSU. And Bruce, if you're still on here, do you have any updates at all from Winston-Salem State about any of that?
I tried to email him the other day actually about something not related to CAB, and I haven't heard back from him. So I don't know if he's in the wind. I don't know what's up. I called him on his cell phone. He didn't answer. I don't know. Wow. I can try to reach out one more time, but I haven't heard from him. I emailed him probably last week. I haven't heard back.
I hope he's okay, but thank you for doing that too.
Okay.
He's usually very, very good about getting back, so I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, I'll reach out one more time. I'll do that right now, actually.
Okay, and Dr. Mitchell may know something too, Bruce.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I can go talk to him after I leave this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Cameron, sorry.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with them, because like I was saying earlier, I really think it would be nice to have them on, because I know they have maybe more clear judgment than I would have about how to phrase these questions in a way that's accessible to everyone. So thank you for telling them about that. So these are the questions that we have so far, and some of them, as we were going through, this committee was going through, just had some questions for CAB overall, if whether or not we should keep some of these questions, or if you like the wording still. So maybe we could start with just number one. What is your school status at your current institution? I think we all agreed undergraduate, graduate, and other would be a good one, just in case there's like faculty taking a few classes or something like that. Did you all want to be, I know Faith and I talked about, and Paulina, making it so, I think when we click on undergraduate, Faith, is that correct? It'll pop up a few different buttons, like you can choose first year, second year, and same for graduate?
Yeah, we can do something like that, or just have it as a second question where they kind of go together. So are you a graduate, undergraduate? You can, select undergraduate, and then what year undergraduate would just be a second question if we need to keep the, if we need to keep like the actual creating of the survey simple. Like, I don't know who's going to be doing it, who has the capabilities of doing something like that. I'm not really familiar with the survey form that we're using.
Does anyone, thank you, Faith. Does anyone have any thoughts on wanting to add more information, or just keep graduate and undergraduate?
I have a question before we kind of go further or do any sort of vote on this. As far as submitting the survey is concerned, do we have someone that is going to work with the software to get this survey out? Is that going to be one of us? Do we need to find someone? Because it might be vital for us to speak with them about exactly what we can or can't do as far as formatting.
So if we can't put undergraduate and then under that the year, then we would have to add another question. Is that correct?
That's what I'm thinking. But like I said, I don't know that much about the software that we're choosing to use or who's putting it together and their capabilities. There's always a way to kind of add that stuff through, programming, but I don't know who's going to be creating that. So it might be helpful to speak with whoever's going to be doing that, to see what our limitations are in that area.
Yeah, once we know, we can maybe schedule a meeting with that person and we can bring this up.
Ms. Wanda, what do you think about that? Do we know, or do we need to be commissioned to figure out who's going to generate that survey?
Well, I think that what we can do for starters is Jamie and I can consult with our marketing and communications department to see what their thoughts may be on that, or either with our internal IT experts. But quite frankly, I had not thought about having someone to put together the survey. I was just looking at it as, I just didn't even think about it quite the way you all are thinking about it, which goes to show the generation gap, I think. So I do believe that we need to definitely follow up, because I don't know if anybody on CAB has that kind of capability, if that's your thing, if you know how to create a survey like this. Can it be that it be a third party type of network or platform? Could it be something like SurveyMonkey or whatever? I mean, what do you all think about that? And if so, can that be shared by your respective administrators? Remember, your administrators, we're depending on them to get the survey out. you all were supposed to be talking to your administrators all along, you know, just to kind of see what it is that they would be able to do.
So a few things there, because I honestly feel like we need to kind of put some ends on some things that we have that are constantly open. If we could, I don't know how you guys feel about this, maybe like deciding a designated person and a time to make sure that we are clear on the communication with the schools and making sure that's good. From my understanding from the last meeting, we had decided on one software program that we were going to use. So I guess with that software program, who's putting that information into that? Is that something that we're going to task one of us to do or someone else?
Thanks. Remind me of that software program.
I think we decided it's going to be Qualtrics.
That's right. Okay. I remember that now. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. I'd totally forgotten about that. So is that something that we need to have someone outside to help do, or can CAB handle that?
I think Sophie has something to say.
Yes. So I just looked at the Qualtrics website, and it requires that you create an account. And I was unsure if there was a way to create an account from the city rather than it being from one of the CAB members, just because I'm unsure of how that would work then from distributing it. I don't know if one person makes it, will it be able to be accessed to be sent out by other members of CAB? So I think that's another thing to think about. If there is I would say maybe an account with an email to make other accounts with that is associated with the city.
It might be something that we should contact Dr. Berner about, because I know she was going to review the information for us. I don't know when she would be able to do that, but maybe if she's going to review it, she's got some experience with that, with her suggesting that.
If I might jump in real quick, and I have to jump back out. The Office of Strategic Innovation will be handling how to get the survey out to the student population at Forsyth Tech.
Okay, now let me ask you this, Curtis. They're going to be handling getting it out. Are they going to take the survey that we generate through this system, or are they going to want to use a different system? Because I know we were planning on it being uniformed with that one system.
Right, through Qualtrics, if I'm correct. So I'll speak. In fact, I see Dr. Spriggs tomorrow, and I'll speak to her directly about that, and I'll give you an answer tomorrow if we need to alter it for Forsyth Tech. It would seem that Qualtrics, I guess, works at every facility or college. So if there has to be some type of adjustment, I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll see her personally.
Okay, so it sounds like the first step that we need to do, and you guys tell me if you agree with this, would be to not only talk to our schools about it, but just verify that Qualtrics can be used on each school's platform, and just ensure that they can pretty much distribute what we've already created, or if they need to create something of their own, because that might affect how we go about this next step. Does that make sense?
I would say my best guess is that we would share with the school a link, and they would share that link, and then everybody can open Qualtrics in their computer. I don't know how it works, but I would say that's my best guess.
And I was
sketchy because of IT at each school. So
that's what I was gonna say. That's what I would like. It would be easy if it was that way, but there's a chance that they may, want to do something further, or they may require that they be a little bit more involved in it. So we just need to determine that so that we can make sure that we're able to uniform that across all the platforms. So we would need to know, are you going to have any requirements for us distributing this survey?
Right.
Okay. For everybody, I got to go back.
What do y'all think about that? Or
can someone please spell Qualtrics for me? I know we had that discussion too. Is it Qualtrics or Qualtrics?
It's Qualtrics. I'll put it in the chat box for you.
Okay, thank you. I'm actually sending a message to our IT team. Okay, thank you, Paulina, as we speak. So maybe we can get some kind of direction while you all are talking.
Thank y'all so much for raising these questions too. Just so we know in the details before we send everything out to make sure, it's uniform and everything.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
we might want to come up with some questions that we need to have answered, like how do we submit it to each school? Do we need to create it ourselves? Who creates it? So that we know that we have that information.
That's a great idea. Let's see.
Is this something that should also be brought up at the NLC meeting to see how they have distributed surveys in the past and how, since we do have a grant with them, how they would want their almost brand to be represented rather than just kind of what's the easiest way for us to do it? Because we are working under them. I get it from my understanding.
From my understanding of the call, they're there to kind of direct and give us like feedback and insight about it. There is a call coming up, I think like next week. So that's definitely something that we could mention there as far as how they were able to do it. I'm not sure if they're used to it being multiple schools or not. I'm not sure, but if they have some insight, yeah, we can definitely ask them. The only thing is, different regions might have different systems and things that they use, but we can definitely find out how they were able to be successful.
Great idea.
I think that we should we should have some more conversation with Dr. Berner also, since she has also experience with that system and these types of survey questions.
That's a great idea. And like I said, we are in communication with Dr. Berner and Miss Tiffany. And so that should be easy enough to do, Faith, to keep Dr. Berner in the loop and make sure we have her continued guidance and feedback with this.
Okay. Are there any other questions that you guys want to put together or that we need to pose as far as the organization of the survey actually going out that you would like for me to write down for the NLC meeting? Sorry. So this one is how did you send out the survey? So is there like anything else that you feel like we probably need to know, or do we have to have the IRV before we can send the survey? That needs to be in place?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay.
And so hopefully between Bruce and myself, we can find out the status of that with Winston-Salem State. So going back to the survey questions, are you all okay with the questions as they stand, or I mean, how do you feel just in general about the questions? I know that you had questions about, well, does it need to be broken down more in terms of undergraduate and all of that, but just overall looking at the questions in general, are we at a good place? I think this captures all of the changes you all had over the past few meetings and so on.
I feel good about it. The picture that's showing now is an example of what Faith provided us as how race is set up in a question and ethnicity is set up in a question. So those are the only things I would like to highlight, but I feel good about them. And if you all do or have any questions, let me know, or otherwise we can do a roll call vote.
I think one thing that we talked about when we were posing the demographic questions, we weren't sure about, Cameron, was whether we wanted to do the dependent question.
That's right. Did you all feel comfortable about asking, do they have dependents, or we didn't want to include that question? That would bring us up to 5 questions for the demographics.
Or do you guys think that that's relevant for what we're doing?
I think it's relevant, especially if we're asking undergraduate, graduate. We don't, because graduate isn't like, both are not like a set timeline. You don't do undergraduate, not everybody does undergraduate 18 to 22 or graduate 22 to whatever, how long your program is. So I think asking that question is very fair to do so. And especially if we have professors answering this, if that is a possibility, I think it's an important question.
I agree. Well, if no one has any other feelings about it, I mean, I guess we could motion and put it to a vote to accept the questions.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll make the motion to accept these 5 questions for the ending demographics of our survey.
I second that motion.
Okay, I'll take the vote. Sophie Brown,
Yay.
Myra Ramirez,
Yay.
Cameron Allen,
Yay.
Bruce Williams III,
Yay.
Faith Springs,
Yay.
Paulina Solis, yay, no nays.
All right, great. Thank y'all so much. Okay, it looks like the next thing is, we already kind of hit on this, but survey format and survey questions. Campus communications. And I do want to bring up with Wake Forest, we have been working with the communications. I think we were having some trouble making that communications connection. So for that reason, we did reach out to the assistant provost of the Office of Institutional Research. He was out of the office, so we're waiting to hear back from him to see how he can guide us more, and then he will be able to answer those questions about will it be a link sent out, or is it more embedded code or things like that for us. So waiting on those communications, but I'm sure within the next few days we'll have more information. And I know we're waiting on the IRB approval, but does everyone else feel comfortable at their schools and institutions with sending out communications, or at least contacting the right people about it? Okay.
Yes, I talked to director of activities, but I think we're gonna have to send it out to somebody else. And that way you can get, they reach like all the students, not just like on-campus students or, non-traditional.
Right. I think that's good. And on the calendar, just to bring this up too, we have the survey running for 2 weeks. Would that be correct for everyone, or what everyone thinks is an appropriate amount of time?
I think 2 weeks seems a fair amount of time for the survey to be out. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that.
Yeah, Cameron, I know we already talked about it. I agree with the 2 week time period. The only thing I would say is we're leaning on our own understanding. So that would just be a question that I would also pose to Dr. Berner to see if that's an adequate time for a survey to go out.
Is someone jotting down these questions for Dr. Berner too? Faith, I know you were jotting down the questions for the NLC, but all of these Dr. Berner questions, it would be nice to have those. And if someone could get those to me and to Jamie, we can get those on to Dr. Berner.
I wrote down 2 questions for Dr. Berner. We want to ask her about the software we're going to use for the survey and what's the best way to distribute it, and ask if 2 weeks is enough time for the survey to be out. Is that correct?
Yes. Can we also ask her how much time she needs to process the data before she gets it back to us, so that we can have that expectation?
Great questions. Yeah.
Because I know we also spoke about seeing if we can get at least a little bit of the data or the initial stages before our next meeting following the survey. We can have something to discuss as far as information and how we want to proceed before then. Okay, so does everyone feel comfortable? Feel comfortable about the survey and what we have questions so far? Anything else to add? Okay. All right, so I feel like now we can move on to our collegiate trust talks and at least the initial stages for that. Some dates committee chairs we're looking at are the first week in April. Let's see, either the first Thursday or the second Thursday in April. So that would be April 1st or April 8th. And we, like I said, we wanted to put it a little earlier in April so it doesn't interfere with anyone's exams or anything like that. But I don't know how you all feel comfortable about a Thursday date, or you wanted to do something different in the week.
And I would say what we thought about when we picked the Thursday was last year the Collegiate Trust Talk was on a Tuesday. And we assumed since we're meeting with an officer, typically Mondays and Fridays are the busy days, and when you're scheduling things like that, they prefer it not to be on one of those days, coming like right off of or going to a weekend. If you prefer us to do one of those days, we can definitely look into it. Or we can, decide between two dates. And then I'm assuming that everybody's semester ends around the same time at the end of April.
I agree that.
And that way it was, spaced out too between what we had going on with March with the meeting.
Would this be in the evening?
I think it was in the daytime, wasn't it, Cameron? It was during the day. I mean, I don't know. We could maybe see if we could do it in the evening.
Collegiate Trust Talks is always in the evening because that is when it seems to work best for a lot of officers and for college students, because most people have their classes during the day. And so that's why we usually have Collegiate Trust Talks after 5.
Okay. So then that may be another component with anybody who does have like evening classes. Was there any reason it was during the middle of the week, or are we free range from Monday through Friday?
I think there were in the past some preferred days of the week that the Winston-Salem Police Department had, just based on what was going on in the city.
Right.
But, I have gone ahead and sent the ask out for them to give us some good dates in late March or early April, because they need to have some flexibility, given all that.
Right.
And so we're just waiting. They usually will send back several dates. And so we'll see. But right now, I've not gotten a response just yet. But any day I could get something back from them.
Okay.
And typically what CAB does, you all take the lead on communicating with your respective chiefs of police. So you all need to make sure that you go ahead and start that conversation with them, whether it's verbally or if you want to send an email, you just want to go ahead and prompt them to look at some dates as well. They're used to it. Most of them have been chiefs of police long enough to know about Collegiate Trust Talks. They're always very, very supportive. And Bruce, even on your campus with Chief Henry, he has been involved in Trust Talks, Collegiate Trust Talks since the beginning. So even though I know he's new as the chief, he has been involved and he's aware of Trust Talks.
Okay.
Wake Forest, definitely your chief, Chief Lawson, she's been heavily involved. And for Scythe Tech, who is your chief of police now? Okay.
Not sure.
You all did have a new chief like a year or two ago, and she's aware of Collegiate Trust Talks. She has participated in at least one, if she's still there. And Myra, who is your chief at Salem? Do you know?
Got a new one 2 years ago as well. He got promoted, but I have his email, so I can reach out to him.
Okay. But yes, if you mention Collegiate Trust Talks and the College Advisory Board, they are well aware. And so again, I would highly recommend you go ahead and put that out there to them so that they can start thinking about it. And in the past also, some of you on CAP have felt strongly, your predecessors felt strongly about inviting administrators. so that it wasn't just your chiefs of police. Maybe there was a particular provost or a dean or someone or professor that you knew of who really should be there or who had an interest in this area, and that type of thing. And Bruce, again, at WSSU, Dr. Manel was very involved in the past. He's come to just about all of them. So, I mean, there are just certain people that you may want to touch base with, just to, if you want to. That's totally up to you who you'd like to invite to participate. But just know it's not limited to police only, even though that is the focus. That group is the focus.
So do we need to table actually setting a date until we get some dates from them?
Well, it's good for you all to be floating some dates as well, because sometimes they will ask if you have any preferred dates. So it's just good for everybody to start thinking about it. It doesn't hurt. And then just understanding that there may need to be some flexibility based on scheduling, especially for the officers.
Okay.
When you all came up with your calendar, did you all look at spring breaks? Are you all doing spring breaks? I know in the fall, things were kind of changed because of COVID. But that's usually in the past our biggest thing we looked at for what week we should target.
I know that for Tech spring break this year is in March. I think it's the midweek of March. And I think that was also the same week that we already had the meeting for the city of Winston-Salem. So I figured it would be better to kind of spread it about, but I'm not sure if anybody else's spring break dates.
Yes, Foresight Tech spring break is Tuesday the 16th through Thursday the 18th.
I don't know if, oops, sorry, Myra.
I was gonna say that ours is the third week of March as well. It's not in April.
Oh, okay.
We do not have a spring break. We have 2 days off. So, and they're spread out. So it's not going to be an issue for us that week.
Yeah, we don't have spring break either, so no issue.
Is there a time during the semester that any of you guys prefer or preference that may be a little bit easier? I know sometimes, finals are a little bit earlier or later. Is there any?
We have finals, I believe it's starting the second week of May, early May. So early April is actually perfect. I think that gets us right after midterms and before finals. So that is a good time for us.
What about you guys at other schools? Is early May a good time for you?
I think it sounds like it'll miss everyone's spring break, or if they did have a spring break, usually during that time in April. So I think maybe those 2 April dates.
Mm-hmm.
And if Thursday works well for people, I think that'll give enough time to, throughout the week, to remind people that it's coming up. So it would be April 1st, that Thursday, or April 8th we're looking at, but of course, maybe end of March if it's better for the officers, or later in April too. Should we just keep that floating, or should we wait to vote on an exact date for that?
I think you could do either way. I don't think it's necessary to vote per se, because it's so fluid right now. But if you all feel more comfortable, hey, but I don't know that it's necessary right now, because it's just all over the place. We don't know what the chiefs are going to say.
Right.
They end up changing anyway. But I think that in the past, there's never really been a problem with them accommodating you all's schedules, because they know your students and you've got midterms and finals and all kinds of stuff to do. So they understand that.
Right. I think that sounds awesome. We can keep it, I guess, floating for now, especially till we hear back from anyone or any other cab member.
Right. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is share with you via email some of the past questions that were posed during collegiate trust talks in the interest of time, so that you all, because usually we would be in person and we could mark up stuff and all of that, you know, but anyway, we're going to send those questions to you that have been used. And that way, if you all want to tweak those questions, you can. And maybe when you meet again, all you have to do is vote, because, you know, given the circumstances of 2020, those questions probably do need to be somewhat revised so that it can the current climate that we have.
Right.
So we'll share those past collegiate trust talks questions with you via email.
Okay.
And if one of you wants to make it into a Google Doc or whatever you want to do, but we'll send it to you regardless.
All right, thank you. That sounds good. Okay, and it looks like tab calendar, feels like we went over that a little bit, but does anyone have any updates or anything they want to change so far on the calendar? Okay, and that one's always like fluid, so we can make any changes we need to going forward. Okay, so it looks like there's any reminders or updates from Miss Jamie or anyone else? Okay, so it looks like our last thing on the agenda would be to find an official meeting date, or if anyone has any upcoming events that they would like to share. And I think, I know we talked about it before, that around this time on Tuesdays works best for most people. So we're in February now. So we were thinking they would still be based on when we can get that survey out and everything like that, but maybe March, let's see. I don't know, what day would work best for y'all? Would a Thursday work to see if we can get the survey back within like 2 weeks' time, or you want to still try for a Tuesday?
I think we're looking at the second or third Tuesday of the month. I don't know right now if we're in a place to have the survey out before the next meeting. I think there's a lot of things that are still open. And I would personally suggest that we do it a little earlier in the month, as long as it is a time that is conducive for Dr. Berner, if she's going to be visiting or joining that meeting.
Do you all want to try for either Tuesday, March 9th or Tuesday, March 16th?
Either one works for me.
That March 16th date would be immediately following our city council meeting. So I don't know if that's too much on people's plates, but it could be a place where we could discuss what we heard and information going forward too.
Would be nice.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so Tuesday, March 16th at 2 p.m. is what we're looking for our next meeting date.
You all do need to vote on that.
Okay, all right, so I make the motion to vote on Tuesday, March 16th as our next meeting date.
I second that motion.
Okay, I'll take the vote now. Myra Ramirez,
Yay.
Sophie Brown,
Yay.
Faith Springs,
Yay.
Cameron Allen,
Yay.
Bruce Williams III,
Okay.
Paulina Solis, yay, no names.
All right, great. So that looks like our date. And does anybody have any more questions or comments? Okay, so it looks like we would be ready to adjourn the meeting.
Which means that's another vote. One more vote, you all.
So I'll make the motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Second that motion.
Okay, Sophie Brown,
Yay.
Myra Ramirez,
Yay.
Faith Springs,
Yay.
Cameron Allen,
Yay.
Bruce Williams III,
Yay.
Paulina Solis, yay, and no names.
All right, great. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Gab, you are awesome, and you're continuing to do awesome things. We're so proud of you. We really are proud of you for staying the course. Please make sure you join the NLC meeting that was already announced. What was that date again, you all?
February 25th.
February 25th at?
I think it's 1 or 2. Let me check. I have it on my calendar.
Okay, I have it too somewhere, but I have a bunch of papers in front of me right now.
It is 1 to 2 on the 25th.
Okay. So please join that meeting if at all possible. We do have those questions that you all want to pose, so we need you on the meeting in case they have questions of you. Okay?
And if anybody comes up with any other questions you want to send me.
Pardon?
Sorry, I was just saying if anybody comes up with any questions like after the fact that they want to send me.
Thank you, Faith.
Bruce.
Yes, and encourage those who aren't on the call to be on the NLC call as well, okay? All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.